Hey guys, and welcome to another Automate Processes video tutorial on Flash ActionScript 3 and setting up a basic website. In this tutorial I'm going to be showing you the basics of how to lay out the foundation of your website, as well as make a couple of pages and get our main page to load those pages in. So we're going to be building like a gallery page, a home page and a contact page, and all those three pages are going to act as separate Flash files. And we're going to write some code and basically load those into the main page. So before we do that, let's start setting up a folder where we're going to store our website in. So that's an old copy. So I've got a folder here in my USB drive, or one of my hard drives, and I've just got a folder here called Swinburne Automate Processes, and in there, basic website. So if you're using a USB drive, just go ahead and make a folder on there called basic website. And then the next thing you're going to need is Flash Develop. Now you don't have to use Flash Develop, you can, which is what we're going to be doing in this tutorial, just because I reckon it's a lot better to learn on than the standard Flash ActionScript editor. It gives you a lot more helpful hints, it tells you a bit more about what you're coding rather than just typing from the screen and hoping that you understand what's going on. So you can grab that from flashdevelop.org. Just go to the download section here, and right down the bottom of this forum post, just download Flash Develop 4.0. So once you've got that downloaded, just go ahead and run it, and you can install this to your USB drive if you select a portable version. It just means it won't install the desktop shortcut and some other SDKs, which we aren't going to use anyway. So just go ahead and select portable, click next and install it to your USB drive. And once it's installed there, go ahead and run it, and you should have a screen that looks similar to this. So the first thing I'm going to do to get started with our website is I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to do that in Flash Develop here. So I'm going to go over to Project, New Project. I'm working with ActionScript 3, and we're using the Flash IDE, or the Flash main program, to actually build our site. So I'll select Flash IDE project from here. And the name I'm going to give it is just basic website. And I'm going to save it in my Automate Processes folder. So in my backup drive, under Automate Processes, and in my basic website folder. So make sure you save your project file in there. And just make sure that create directory for project is unticked. Now you only have to do this once because we're just setting up a project for the first time here. That's why we're going through this. Let's go ahead and press OK. And then you should see here in the project panel that we've got basic website AS3. It's very important that it says AS3 and not AS2. And we're good to go from here. So I'm just going to move this panel over by clicking and dragging it to this little dock. And that's because we're going to be creating a couple of folders in this folder. So I'll just go over to my basic website folder here, and you can see we've just got a Flash Develop project file in here. Head back over to Flash Develop, and I'm going to create two folders in here. So I'm going to right click on the name and go to Add New Folder. And I'm going to call this one Source, SRC. And this folder is where we're going to put all our FLA files and our ActionScript files in. And I'm going to create another folder. I'm going to call it Deploy. And this is where all our published files are going to go in. So when we publish a Flash file, we get a Swift file, or we get a HTML file sometimes. This is where they're all going to be put into. And into Deploy, I'm going to create another folder. And this time I'm going to call it Pages. And this Pages folder is going to hold our home page, our about page, and our contact page. Home, about. I should do home, gallery, and contact. So those three pages are going to get published into here. So now that we've got our folders set up, and you can see that shows the changes in here. So now Deploy, we've got Pages. And Source, we've got nothing at the moment. So let's head over to Flash And I'm using CS 5.5 for this. It's going to look a little bit different in 5, but the options should still be the same. So first things first, I'm going to create a new ActionScript 3 document. And I'm going to set its properties. Now in Flash 5 and lower, there should be a button here on the side properties that says Stage Properties or something like that. You just click that and you'll be able to see this panel that you see here. So I'm going to set the size to 950 by 650, and I'm going to change the frames per second over to 30. Actually, this little button here in CS 5.5, you'll get this window show up in CS 5 or lower. So we want our dimensions to be 950 by 650 and our frame rate to 30. Go ahead and press OK. And I'm just going to make this fit in our window area. And so this page here is going to be our main holder page or our index page. So I'm going to go ahead and save this file. I'm going to save it in my basic website source folder. And I'm going to call it index. So now with that done, let's create our other pages. I'm just going to go over to File and Save As, because our other pages are going to be the same size and same frame rate, so there's no point creating a new page and redoing the dimensions every time. I'm just going to go to Save As, and I'm going to save this page as Home. Then once again, I'm going to do a Save As, and this page is going to be called Gallery. And one more time, save this page as Contact. Now I'm just going to open all those pages so we can work with them all together. Just drag select around them all. And Contact's already open, that's fine. So here's all our other pages. And they all look exactly the same for the moment. I'll just make them fit in the window. And I'm just going to reorder it so index comes first and then the home. So there's our files all set up, and if you see here in Flash Develop under the source, you can see that there's 4 Flash files all in here. Now when we publish these Flash files, we want them to end up in the deploy folder, and more importantly, we want these 3 pages to end up in the pages folder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the index FLA file, and I'm going to go to File, Publish Settings, and this is another window that's going to look slightly different in Flash CS5 or lower, but typically there's a couple of boxes over here, and you've got one that's ticked with Swift file and another one with HTML. So with our index file, we want to publish this, and I'm going to click on the Select Publish Destination box here, and we're going to publish this in the Deploy folder. So click the Deploy folder, and then click Save. And you'll see here that the path ends up as /deploy/index.swift. Now the .. if we look in Flash Develop for a second, our FLA file lives in the source folder. So if we need to go up one folder to the main folder, we use a DOS command called .. and that lifts us up one level to here. Then we want to go into the deploy folder and we want to publish in here. So that's why this path is set up like that. With our HTML file, we want to do exactly the same thing. Click on the destination, click on deploy, press OK. And that's where our HTML file is going to be published to. So just click OK, and then go to File and Publish. And once you've done that, in Flash Develop, you can now see we've got our index HTML and our Swift file published in our deploy folder. So over to the home page, and I'm going to do something similar here. I'm going to go to File, Publish Settings. Now for our home page, it's going to be loaded into our main index Swift, so we don't need a HTML wrapper or a HTML file for this. So I'm just going to untick it. And our publish destination is going to be in our deploy pages folder. click save on that, and you should see that the path gets updated to //deploy pages home. Let's click OK on that, and then go to File, Publish. And we're going to do the same with the contact and the gallery pages. So File, Publish Settings. We don't need a HTML file. Click on Publish Destination, and it's already selected in our Pages folder from the home page. So just click OK, OK again, and then Publish. Okay, so now that our pages are published, go back to Flash Develop and see that they are being output to here. We've got our main index file out here, and our 3 pages are published over here. Great. So now let's put some content on those pages so we know that we're actually loading in the right page when we go to create our script. So I'm just going to do a save all first, so all our pages get saved. And over on the home page, I'm just going to use the text tool. And I'm just going to type a really big home page. Let's change the font around as well. And that'll do. So I'm just going to copy this on the home page and go over to Contact and do a Control-Shift-V to paste in place. And I'm just going to edit the text here to say Contact. And then one more time, copy, Control-Shift-V, paste for the gallery page. So even though we've put text on these pages now, the Swift files that we've published out here, they haven't updated yet because we haven't published this page yet. So whenever you see a little star up here, it means you've got to save your page first and then go to File, Publish, or just hit Alt-Shift-F12. So we'll do the same with this one. Save it, Publish, and save it. And this time I'll use the shortcut, Alt-Shift-F12. Great, so we've got 3 pages all published, and our index page is sitting here empty at the moment. So let's start the scripting that we're going to need to bring in those other pages. So first things first, I'm going to create a document class file for this index page. I'm just going to call it index. Oops, not in capitals, just index. So save that, and we'll do our coding in Flash Develop. At this point you can go to File and go to New and go to ActionScript3 class and just give a class name here, and we can code in the Flash ActionScript editor as well. In fact, we may as well just set this up here. So I'm just going to call it index and just press OK. So here's our script file. I'm just going to save this script file in our source folder, and it's going to be called index.as. Just press OK to that. And if we look in Flash Develop, you can see that we've got an index.as file here. So we'll come back and edit it in here in just a second. I just want to explain that now that we've got this file in here, we should close it down. Otherwise, every time we make changes in Flash Develop, it's going to ask to refresh the file here. And sometimes if you don't refresh, it can cause a bit of problems. So after you've created it, just close it down if you're working in Flash Develop. Otherwise, feel free to follow along. So over in Flash Develop, I'm just going to double click on my index.as file. And I'm going to make the class file extends movie clip. And you can see that Flash Develop goes ahead and gives you all these nice little code hints. It's always important not to finish typing the word in Flash Develop, and try not to use your mouse to select what you want. Always press enter. Just get used to that habit, because then Flash Develop goes ahead and imports the class for you for any classes that you're using which is a part of your code. So just to make sure that this index file is working with our index flash file, in the constructor code section here, I'm just going to do a simple trace command, and I'm just going to say website loaded. So save your work with Control S, and then I'm going to press Control Enter to test. And you can see down here in the output window, we've got website loaded. So that's great. Our code is now talking with our flash file because we've set up our document class. So let's get a basic loading page function going here. So back over here in Flash Develop, I'm going to set up a private function. And I'm going to call it load page. And we're going to be sending it one parameter, which is going to be what page name that we want to load. So I'm just going to call it page, and then data type it with colon to string. So I'm using round brackets outside of the function name, and then the body of our function is going to be using curly brackets. So in here, there's three things I want to do. First thing is I want to set up a loader object. I want to add an event listener to that loader object to see when our file is finished loading. Set up an event listener to our loader object, and finally we want to load in our file. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is set up that loader object. So I'm going to type out a new variable called myLoader. Now this name can be anything you want. I'm just calling it myLoader. And I'm going to data type that to a loader type of object. So notice I didn't type the whole loader in, I only typed a little bit of the word. I'll press enter, and you can see a Flash Develop imports the class for you, and we've got a little sort of semi-cyan type color saying that this is a class that's been imported. So I'm going to make that equal a new loader object. And then here we want to set up an event listener for that loader. So I'm going to type myLoader dot content loader info, then add event listener. And the event we want to listen to is called complete. So I'm just typing com here and pressing enter. And when our file is finished loading, when it's complete, we're going to go to another function which we haven't created yet, but we will in a second, called page loaded. And then finally we want to load in the requested file. So I'm going to say myLoader.load, and what's the file that we want to load? So just say for example we want to load our home page. Now this index file is published in our deploy folder, so if we want to get to a page which is in another folder, we have to tell it what folder name it is first, followed by a / and then the file name. So in this case I'm going to use quote marks, and we want to go to our pages folder, which is inside our deploy folder, and we want to load in the home page. Cool, so that's that part done. Now we need to set up a function for our page loaded. So I'm going to create another private function here. And this is going to accept one parameter. So every time we set up an event listener, we need to set up a parameter which is going to be coming into the function that we specify. So in this case, I'm just going to call it E, and it's going to be the type of event. Oops. So event, let's press enter, and I'm going to set up the curly braces to enclose the body for this function. So when our page is loaded, we want to get that loaded page and actually put it on the stage so we can see what it looks like. Because at the moment the page is loaded in here, but it's not being displayed because we haven't added it to the display list yet. So what I'm going to do here is add our loaded page to the display list. And we do that by saying add child, and the child we want to add is coming in from our event, whatever target our event is, and then the content of that target. So if we save this now, and oops, there's one more thing we need to do. Pull this down a bit. We need to actually call this load page function and pass it the page name. Now, we're going to pass it a page name. It's not going to do anything for the moment because we've hard-coded in this page's home, but we'll come back and edit that, and I'll show you what I mean by making a dynamic function. So just up the start here, I'm just going to type in load page, and this is another handy thing with Flash Develop. All the custom functions that you type get shown up here in this nice little loadout list, so you can actually see what you've done and call upon it quickly. And it gives you hints as to what you need to type in for that function too. So here it's expecting a string, so we'll just pass it pages / contact .swift. Now it's not going to load this page, and I'll explain why as soon as we run the page. So save that and press Control Enter, and we've got a bit of a problem. That's right. So the myloader.load function, if we go just inside the first round bracket and press Control Space, and that's not working. Alright, let's get rid of that. Use open bracket. You can see here that we need a URL request type of object, and we provided a string. So this is why we get this error. We're trying to coerce a string to be a URL request object, and Flash is spitting out an error saying, well, you can't do that. So what we need to do in here is set up a new URL request, and that URL request is now expecting a string. So this is what file we want to load. So I'm going to type with quote marks pages home.swift, and then close off both brackets. And now, if we save our work and test it again, you can see our home page is now being loaded in to our index page. So that's all well and good, but we want to make this function dynamic so we can reuse it just by calling on load page and then passing it what page we want to load. So what I'm going to do is, instead of saying pages home Swift in here, I'm just going to get rid of that and replace it with this page variable. So the page variable changes depending on what we pass to it. So here we're calling load page and we're passing in pages / contact.swift. So when we run this load page, this page variable here becomes this string here, and we can just use that down here. So if I save and test again, you can see our contact page is loaded this time in our index Swift. But we can make it a little bit more dynamic still. So we don't really need to pass pages / every time because we know all our pages are going to live in this pages folder. Likewise, we don't need to keep adding on the Swift file every time because all we're loading in this function, in this load page function, is going to be a Swift file. So down here in page, what I'm going to do just in front of page is I'm going to type a quote mark and put pages in here, then end the quote mark, and then at the end of page I'm going to use another quote mark and put a .swif in here. So what we're trying to say is add this string, and then just after it we're going to add on this variable, which is going to be either home, contact, or gallery. And then after the variable we're going to add on with a plus the .swif file. So instead of passing in a full path here, all we need to do is pass in the name of the file we want, and then the prefix, which is pages, and the suffix, which is swif, get added in automatically. So now if I save this and test again, you can see our gallery page loads up, and all we need to do to call upon that function is just type the name of the file. So I'm going to put this back to home, save that, and test that page again. So that's working as intended. So we've set up a dynamic function here which we can call whenever we want in our index file, and in the next tutorial we're going to set up a navigation bar which we can click on different buttons and actually load in our pages by using this function that we've already made. So thanks for watching guys, and stay tuned for the next one.